mudita on my screen.
Good morning. We're still just getting organized, and I'm going to have a discussion on important sutta, Sīlasutta in the Bojjhaṅgasaṃutta, the discourses on the awakening factors. So welcome, everyone. I'm going to start with the Namo Tassa, and then I'm going to share the screen. Aya Nyanika is also here, and we'll be also adding comments and looking at, I will be looking at Bhante Sujato's translation, and you'll have the, get a little bit closer so we can, there, that's better. So we'll be looking at two translations, Bhante Sujato's and Bhante Bodhi's, Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi's. So we'll start with Namo Tassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddham Dhammam Sangham Namasami. All right. So, can you see the sutta well now?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. So I'm going to go up to the top. And sila is translated as ethics, or it could be moral discipline. It's keeping our precepts well, so non-harming. And for the monastics, it could be 227 for the bhikkhus, or 311 precepts for the bhikkhunis. So we'll get started with reading this, and I'll make some comments along the way. And Aya and Yannicka, if you see anything radically different in the pause periodically to see. So it starts out, mendicants. When a mendicant is accomplished in ethics, immersion, knowledge, freedom, or the knowledge and vision of freedom, even the sight of them is very helpful, I say.
I just want to say that Bhikkhu Bodhi is translating it as virtue, not rather than ethics. And in this particular context, I like virtue better as it's applying to the enlightenment factors. It's by virtue of these factors that we're setting ourselves up for liberation. Ethics feels more social to me.
Well, I think it's both.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And and absolutely, you can't develop on the path unless you're keeping at least 5 precepts. And I remember when I met, I had started out in another Buddhist tradition, and the ethics were not so good, and it was causing a lot of suffering. And then when I first met Theravada monks and realized they were keeping a really strong ethical code, that really impressed me. And the fact that they weren't even using money, but they were celibate, and so that impressed me really favorably. And then, yeah, it did. So then I say it's helpful just to see somebody. I mean, you also get a sense when you meet somebody who is, ethical, who is virtuous, then it's inspiring. So even to hear them, approach them, pay homage to them, recollect them, or go forth following them is very helpful, I say. So going forth would be entering the monastic order under them, that they receive the monastic going forth under them. But it's also immersion is how Bhante Sujato translates samadhi. See if I can see. Here it is. Skilled in mental stillness. I like that translation of samadhi. And Ajahn Brahm translates samadhi as stillness. With good meditation accomplished in stability of mind. So those are all very nice ways of describing samadhi. So it's not just it's the whole package, although the title is virtue or ethics. So why is that? Why is that? Even if we recollect them or pay homage or approach them is very helpful. It's because after hearing the teaching of such a mendicant, a mendicant will live withdrawn in body, both body and mind. So even as a lay practitioner, I remember that being inspired and going to the monastery and spending time there was, I was also inspired to go and meditate, go withdraw from the world. As they recollect and think about the teaching, okay. Oh, because after hearing the teaching of such a mendicant will live withdrawn in both body and mind as they recollect the teaching and think about the teaching.
Yeah, Bhikkhu Bodhi says, one recollects that Dhamma and thinks it over.
So this is a different type of meditation that isn't talked about much in these days, but I've been trying to bring this some practice publicly, where we look at maybe phrases or verses from the suttas and just really reflect on them. Or if you have a teaching that someone you really inspired by gives you, you've written it down, and then you just really ponder the meaning of it. Somehow it's touched your heart. Somehow instinctively you know this is really important, or you're getting a glimmer of understanding, but you want to go deeper into it. At such a time, a mendicant has activated the awakening factor of mindfulness. So this is a type of dhammanusati where it's a little bit different because or maybe it's because you're reflecting on verses or words or teaching or a concept. So you're reflecting on that, and the awakening factor of mindfulness is activated. They develop it and perfect it. Is there different wording there?
The enlightenment factor of mindfulness comes to fulfillment by development.
That's interesting. There's a difference between being activated and developing. It's being developed. Let's see. It's aroused. It's aroused, applied, undertaken. It's a arado.
Is it okay? So maybe I'm a little too far along. The mindfulness is aroused,
Okay,
and
so
then they develop the enlightenment factor of mindfulness,
okay,
and
yeah,
then comes to
okay.
fulfillment.
So you're a
Okay,
little bit
I jumped.
okay. So that's
Yes.
I was it did seem like it. Okay,
Leaping ahead.
okay. They develop it and perfect it.
There we go.
As they live mindfully in this way, they investigate, explore, and inquire into that teaching with wisdom. So they're further going more deeply into something they've learned. It may be a meditation, mindfulness of the body or mindfulness of mental states. It could be one of the foundations of mindfulness, or mindfulness of the feeling. If they're really investigating and exploring the teaching with wisdom at such a time, a mendicant has activated the awakening factor of investigation of principles. So that's Dhammavichaya Sambojjhanga. It says investigation of reality as an element of awakening, analyzing the teaching as a factor of enlightenment. And how does Bhante Bodhi translate that?
I am not able to directly parallel them because they're structured quite differently. But
I see.
Do I? Are
You could just
here?
read from where you
Are we
dwelling mindfully,
right
he discriminates that Dhamma, probably.
dwelling thus mindfully? They discriminate that Dhamma with wisdom, examine it, and make an investigation of it. Keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Whenever one dwelling thus mindfully discriminates that Dhamma with wisdom, examines it, makes an investigation of it, on that occasion, the enlightenment factor of discrimination of states is aroused. On that occasion, one develops the enlightenment factor of discrimination of states. On that occasion, the enlightenment factor of discrimination of states comes to fulfillment by development.
So discrimination of states is a translation.
Yeah.
And he says investigation of principles.
Yeah.
So other places that this Dhammavichaya is when they describe the whole process, it talks about discerning, I guess it could say discrimination from states of mind, mental states, which is sometimes how it's described, like if the mind is overcome by unwholesome states like anger or greed, or you're aware. This is in the Chitta Nupassana. It's very similar to that. And so that's why the states make sense. Principles.
Yeah, I think it's a translation of Dhamma that Bhante Sujata is using.
Yeah.
That when I read Bhikkhu Bodhi's introduction to the Bojjhangas at the beginning of the collection of the Samyutta, he says it's really boiling down to, is it wholesome or not wholesome?
Right, that's what I was saying. So you see the mental state is either free from anger or with anger, and then whether there's exalted mental expansive states or contracted states. So yeah, so it's that well, how is the mind? And it starts out the presence or absence of the unwholesome, and then to the more exalted states. Are they present or not? So but here the awakening factor of investigation of principles is developed once they start to explore, inquire into the teaching with wisdom. And you see a progressive here as they investigate principles with wisdom. In this way, their energy is roused up and unflagging. At such a time, a mendicant has activated the awakening factor of energy. They develop it and perfect it. So that's Virya Sambojjhaṅga. The effort as an element of awakening, energy as a factor of enlightenment. So this dictionary here is giving two possible translations.
The only, pretty much the words are the same, but I like energies aroused without slackening.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, don't be a slacker.
Oh, unflagging.
Yeah.
Unflagging, roused up, unflagging. So without slacking, without being a slacker.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a progression here. You may see this in yourself as you start getting interested in investigating, and that your mind gets bright and energetic. When their energetic rapture, not of the flesh, arises, that's nira misa, is not worldly, it's a spiritual rapture. Piti is what they translate as rapture, delight, heartfelt joy, pleasure, feeling of love. So this is where it's differentiating the piti from anything that might be from any kind of sense pleasure. It's not like you go to the the juice bar and they sell you this thing they call it Nibbana or rapture juice or something like that. They come up with these commercials where they take words that are spiritual and they attribute it to their tea or something like that. Anyway, so it's not of the flesh, so it's not like it's a physical sensation at the 5 sense gates that are physical. So at such a time, a mendicant has activated the awakening factor of rapture. They develop it and perfect it. Is there anything much different there with that one?
No. He calls it spiritual rapture. He kind of just bypasses, goes to the way that it's meant. But I like looking at it literally as the fleshly,
Not of the flesh.
not of the flesh.
This is what Nira Misa technically means. It's not.
Well, in some of the other definitions for amisa, the is fleshy, of the flesh, food, raw meat, hence the prevailing notion of raw, unprepared, uncultivated. So we're uncultivated. It's also translated as bait, you know. So it's the world's bait: enjoyment, greed, desire, lust. So this is the flavor of this fleshly pleasure.
So it's devoid of all this rapture is not having to do with the
not that. It's not that.
yeah, not having to do with
It's
it.
spiritual. Yeah.
Okay. At such a time, a mendicant has activated the awakening factor of rapture. They develop it and perfect it. So it's interesting how rapture, this joy, this pleasure that's not of the flesh is an awakening factor, enlightenment factor. So it's this Buddhist teaching is not all about dukkha, about suffering. There, you have to have joy in order to wake up. When the mind is full of rapture, the body and mind become tranquil. So they're perfecting this rapture, this they don't, it's interesting, sukha isn't here. In the jhanas, there's this piti sukha, and then the piti settles down and the sukha prevails, and that's a more calm, but instead this is pasadi here. This is a verb here, pasambati. You imagine having a verb that's describing tranquility. But you could say tranquilize. I don't like that. To become calm.
Yeah, yeah.
Calm down, relax, become quiet. A lot of times pasadi is translated as tranquility, but I like that. Calming down, coming calm.
Ajahn Brahmali uses chillax.
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 Okay, so here we go. At such a time, a mendicant has activated the awakening factor of tranquility or serenity or peacefulness. How does that, is it tranquility?
Tranquil.
Yeah. They develop it, perfect it. So here we have pasadi. Sound familiar?
Yay.
Pasadi Bojjhaṅgasaṃutta. Tranquility is an element of awakening, serenity as a factor of enlightenment. So we become serene. So there's this natural progression, there's kind of this uplift of energy. But it's not like tranquility, like if we're gonna just kind of fall asleep. There's still this aliveness, awakeness. It's an awakening factor. It's not a sleeping factor or something like that, going to sleep factor. It's an awakening factor. So the mind and body become tranquil. When the body is tranquil and one feels bliss, the mind becomes immersed in samadhi. So here we have the sukha. Sukhino chitam. The mind becomes at ease, happy, comfortable.
Yeah.
And this is the samadhi here. So they're translating sukha as bliss.
Yes, Bhikkhu Bodhi has a little concern with that, though. He feels like it's conflating the bliss that's in the jhanas. And he says here, it's for one whose body is tranquil, there is happiness. This is from the commentary. I'm sorry, this is from one of the other, the Burmese edition, I think it is, of the Samyutta Nikaya. For one whose body is tranquil, there is happiness. For one who is happy, the mind becomes concentrated. So he's wanting it to be more a sense of happiness.
Yeah, well, that's a whole discussion. They're going to have to duke it out amongst themselves.
Absolutely. Just pulling in that there are
different. Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Looking at three different, slightly different renderings of the canon between the Burmese and the Sinhala.
I've heard Bhante Sujato defend his translation of as bliss. He said it's much more powerful than just ordinary happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just words, and we can get into arguments about words all day long, and that's not the point. The point is it's to point us in a direction, but we have to experience it ourselves and know it ourselves. And then trying to put words to it, that's when we get into trouble. But we're doing the the Buddha did his absolute best, and then we're translating it, and people are translating it into English, and that's where it gets.
Yeah, I guess where I'm looking at it is it's the Sukino is coming before the samadhi. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
associated with the tranquility.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that sense of ease and comfort and
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
applicable, and then the blissiness comes in the full samadhi or in entering into the samadhi.
Well, yeah, then there's a Piti Sukha, which
Right,
is
right, for sure.
if it's the first jhana, unless they've entered directly into the fourth, they're gonna
Yeah,
they're gonna have
some powerful happiness.
okay.
Bliss.
So at such a time, a mendicant has activated the awakening factor of immersion. And this is another thing to consider, is that that's an awakening factor, because you can have jhana, you can enter samadhi, and it's not yet developed into awakening factor. So where you're going through this whole process of really the depth of these, it can be either for or of. This is another thing I've heard people discuss. They sometimes, is it preposition or whatever it is? For or of is, like they say, because in Pali it could be either, translated as either, and then is it for or of, and some people say both. So it's for awakening. So as we develop these qualities, they're not quite awakening factors of like, so then it gets to be of awakening. It's we've accomplished it. We've gained the mastery. We've accomplished the awakening. So at such a time, a mendicant has activated the awakening factor of immersion, which is often translated as concentration. So there's samadhi sambojjhango. So again, I like the stability of mind as an element of awakening, mental composure as a factor of enlightenment. It's like these states, they don't have a single English word that really can describe them, because you have to experience them. It's like indescribable, and because it's not really in the common, it's not in common language, because it's not a common experience. They closely watch over the mind immersed in samadhi. How does Bhante Bodhi talk about that?
He's using concentrated.
Barbie?
He's using concentrated.
Yeah, but then he says they closely watch over the mind immersed in samadhi after they've activated, developed, and perfected it. Arouse. Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of the same stock pattern.
And comes to fulfillment by development, and then they look on with equanimity.
At the mind thus
Okay,
concentrated.
that's what. Okay, so they closely watch over,
The mind immersed in samadhi.
and
Closely looks on with equanimity at the mind concentrated. Mendicant.
because that's what this is. Equanimous observer who observes indifferently. Oops. Village. Okay. So this is the word they've translated. They closely watch over This is a verb here.
Yeah, and you can see the upeka.
Yeah, upeka's in there. Ajupeka, ajupekiti, and that's a verb. Ah, okay. At such a time, a mendicant has activated the awakening factor of equanimity. They develop it and perfect it. At such a time, a mendicant has activated the awakening factor of equanimity. They develop it, perfect it. And so this is a seventh of the awakening factor. So you can see how this progression, it's, and it's not like we've lost the other awakening factors. Or, the mindfulness is the foundation. And then the investigation of principles, or however the other translation is, that's the next, they keep building on one another. You've never lost your mindfulness through the whole, and there's still that investigative quality, and there's that energy is more subtle. And I'm sure the upeka is supposed to be the most blissful or happiest state.
I love this word though, ajupekati, the upe, where upeka is coming from. This definition: to look on intently or with care, to oversee, to take care of. So we're taking care of
The mind,
and the samadhi.
the samadhi, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The mind in samadhi.
The mind in samadhi is looked on carefully and taken care of. It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. So at such a time, so when the 7 awakening factors are developed and cultivated in this way, they can expect 7 fruits and benefits. What, 7? They attain enlightenment early.
Can we go back just also?
Oh, okay.
There's
Go
another
ahead.
word.
All right, sure.
The tata samahitang. So
Okay.
that's the samadhi.
Let me get that back.
Yeah.
So what you're
closely
looking
watch
at.
over the mind immersed in samadhi. Yeah, that line. And the word further to the
Yeah, there I
left.
see it. Yeah, I see it.
Tata, that's a real, a true. So here we're not talking about just any old samadhi, because we're about to wake up here in the sutta. And so this is the real, true thusness of samadhi. So I think that looking at this immersion that's watched over closely, that's cared for, the particular flavor of samadhi here is a really purified
Well, it's depth. Yeah, the depth. The depth.
The actuality of the samadhi is awakening. Because we can definitely have samadhi that is peaceful and, you know, have or blissful, or these characteristics. It can be very nourishing, but it may not be at that completely sustained depth. So that's another beautiful word here, tata samahitang.
True, real, actual.
True composure.
So should we?
No, yeah.
Should go on.
I just wanted to delay in that word
Okay.
before
Thank
we
you.
got onto the 7.
I gotta shift position just for a minute. 2. Okay, so there we go. We're just shifting the laptop around. Excuse us. So when the 7 awakening factors are developed and cultivated in this way, they can expect 7 fruits and benefits. What, 7? So this process has been 4 awakening, and at this point, they attain enlightenment early on in this very life. If not they attain enlightenment at the time of death. So I'm not sure what if they mean full awakening here.
Yeah, final knowledge, but there is a sense of this may not be full awakening. This may
Yeah,
be
it seems like you should at least
touching
be,
nibbana.
you should at least be entering the stream or something at this point. Just see what word they're using here. This is
Pala, pala, fruit.
pala would be the fruit, yeah. So there could be, there's fruit of stream entry at this point, but not full awakening. Sorry, I didn't spend more time with this, so I can't pick out the word easily. Okay, if not, with the ending of the 5 lower fetters, they've extinguished between one life and the next. So they're going all various ways that
Yeah, and in there they're talking about parinibbana, antara nibbayi is the verb form there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If not, with the ending of the 5 lower fetters, so then there'd be non-returner. They've extinguished between one life and the next. So they're a non-returner and they, before they even enter the next life, they've attained parinibbana. If not, with the ending of 5 lower fetters, they're extinguishing upon landing. So then they, as soon as they attain a new birth, like in a heavenly realm, then they will attain parinibbana. If not, with the ending of the 5 lower fetters, they've extinguished without extra effort. If not, with the ending of the 5 lower fetters, they've extinguished with extra effort. If not, with the ending of the 5 lower feathers, they head upstream, going to the Akanita realm. When the 7 awakening factors are developed and cultivated in this way, these are the 7 fruits and benefits they can expect. So this is, at least it seems like they've either attained, in this life, they've attained non-return, or at least sotapanna, but it sounds like the description of these fruits. It's mostly non-return. Anyway, that's kind of interesting, but it's not really so useful other than we can expect that there is some level of awakening that's promised if we fulfill the awakening factors. And the more we work at it, the more
Yeah.
we can expect that we would attain some level of awakening. And you're about to say
Yeah,
something.
same thing. It's like, for me, this last part is technical about when and at which level one attains the awakening, and it's really not the point. I mean, the point is that liberation occurs based on the enlightenment factors and that cultivation. So I love to dwell in the first half of the sutta, where we're actually cultivating what is worthwhile rather than speculating about Are we going to do it in this life, or will it be as we enter another one, or at the end of that one, or between the two? Just practice. That's what's important.
Yeah. So I think the Lord Buddha is just promising that you're
Yes.
going to somehow or another, the Nibbana is,
You won't slip through the cracks.
yeah.
Yeah.
So this is about 20 minutes left. And if anyone has a question or comment, or Ayanika has more they would like to share.
Yep.
And I forgot to say, if there were questions you had as we were reading along, that you could put something in the chat and we would look at it when we got through the whole sutta. I don't like to break up the sutta with questions. So could go back up to the top. Okay.
Vandana.
Huh?
Vandana's got a hand.
Vandana? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Thank you, Aya. That was very nice sutta to listen to. It's very calming. I have a question about the discernment of the mind states. So that's the thing I'm trying to work on, as Ajahn Jasaro suggested me. So I just want to understand that the mind's calmness and tranquility, how can one not see it as me or mine? So the mind's, when it dwells in any peace, it says, oh, I'm having peace. And that's the same mindset go with the other states. When you're feeling a strong feeling, it says my feeling, because you can see the continuation of the previous experience with that related feeling.
Okay,
So, yeah, does it make sense?
Yeah. So if the atta is if you want to look at delusion, so it would be under whether the mind is deluded or not. So when you're sensing atta, when you're sensing self, then that's sensing delusion. You're witnessing or aware of delusion. Because for most of us, we still have that delusion, the hardest one.
Mm-hmm.
But the awareness of the defilements is key to relinquishing them. If we're in see, denial will get deep, can get very deep. Things like anger and hatred are really obvious, but the atta is very sneaky, and all the defilements get sneakier. They get more discreet, and they disguise themselves. And delusion is the biggest culprit, and kind of masking things and not wanting to admit. But it is all tied up in anger and everything. They're all intertwined and all tangled together, like, because someone has offended me or done something that I don't want. So there's this I here in all of it. But if you're seeing that self in a more subtle form, that's really good to be able to bring awareness to that. And this is what the Dhamma Nusati is about, is bringing awareness to the state of mind. There's a Dhamma Nusati would be more like identifying, the hindrances, but like that feel, that sense of the mental state, or that sense of I, getting to the real sense of it that underlies all the I want or I think, or so that would be more the restlessness of the mind, or the anger, or something that's manifesting, but that sense of self. Is this making sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. It's just a catching is having a gap, the catching that mindset that it happened, and then you catch it maybe after 5 minutes. Oh, I was feeling the feeling. I was agitated, or I had the bliss. But that gap,
Oh, I see. When you say it's
I
there,
see it
not-
after a while. Yeah.
so I think with the mental states, you'd have a little more stability. It would be a longer period of time where the mind would just be open and not grasping onto some sense of self than that. And I think that takes a lot of development to see that, to be there. Or that you would look back and you would realize, yes, there was this long period of time. The mind was at ease and expansive, and it wasn't grasping onto anything, and there wasn't this sense of self there. So identifying the sense of self is the first. This is why all the unwholesome states are listed first in the Chittanusati.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Work in progress.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, this investigate and explore, inquire into the teaching with wisdom. So that's putting it into practice, when you're really actually doing it, investigating one's own mind. So
Sati has the most common way we use it is that it's in this moment, to mindfulness in this moment. It also has as I talked about earlier, this quality of recollection. And so the recollectedness of sati. So at this point, the mindfulness in the present moment may not be strong enough for the discernment, the discrimination of the dhammas, to be, that fast that it is a fully developed enlightenment factor, which is why I think remembering that sati also means remembering. So if it's a 5-minute gap, that's fine. You're still applying it. And over time, it will get shorter and shorter. As the mindfulness grows clearer, the gap will become smaller. And as the skill of discernment becomes clearer, what's wholesome, what's unwholesome, what's the taste, what are the signs and features of anger? What are the signs and features of delusion? What are the signs and features of lust? What are the signs and features of any of the defilements or any of the wholesome, beautiful states? And it's like our vocabulary when we learn to read, increases, and we have more words to describe the same thing, the same state, with all these different nuances. We see the subtlety and we see it more quickly. So it's a process as well as a depth of the wisdom developing.
Yes. One thing which I wanted to ask, because we are lay people and have families and the work and all those situations, which can bring a sorry. So how do one protect the mind while dealing with some situations which can bring agitation to mind, and you know it in advance that you have to? So when you have to enter in that field of agitation and anxiety, because you know it's going to harm the mind which you cultivated during meditation is very peaceful. But then you go to that, you take a step and you deal with those situations, which you know that it can harm your mind. So how do we as lay people go forward, maybe just as you said, recollecting that I'm going to enter in this situation, but I will be mindful of my own mindset.
yes, yeah. Yeah, there isn't such a big difference. I mean, we have as monastics things that we have to face, even other monastics.
I was
So
going to say, take the word lay out of there, as people.
yeah. So anyway, everybody has their challenges, and like we can't stay on retreat forever we have responsibilities and other people we have to deal with, and or the water being shut off suddenly, we don't realize it, that, and it's kind of a just preparing the mind that whenever you're upset or angry, what is it that I'm wanting? So here's where investigation. I want people to behave the way I think they should. I want them to treat them, I want the world to treat me in the way that I think it should, and so this is dukkha. And not having one's wishes dukkha. This is in the teachings. And so bringing not cultivating the unwholesome mental states, bringing awareness to it, like I'm feeling agitation now, I see. And sometimes mindfulness of the body helps. Like if somebody's talking to me and I'm feeling really angry and irritated, and I start feeling my feet or something, I'm taking those wheels that are turning and starting to turn in my mind about how they're speaking in a way that I don't like, and blah blah blah. And then also just, can I hear what they're actually saying?
No, actually, no.
Can I
Some issue that then I don't.
okay,
Yeah.
maybe it's true, maybe it's not. And I love this thing that Ajahn Chah had said. He said, they may be calling you a dog, and then you look around and you see you don't have a tail. And you say, oh, I'm not a dog. I know I'm not a dog. But, so it's like, okay, they think I'm a dog. I don't care. But it's like, what's true and what's important and so there's just ways to learn to stabilize the mind, and it takes a lot of practice. And what you experience on the cushion, you can't expect to. There's like different levels of mindfulness. Even like if I'm washing the dishes and there's nobody around, that level of mindfulness that it takes to care for cleaning up and doing that is different than what it is when I'm on the cushion. But I'm applying my mind to what I'm doing, and I'm doing things with care. Even if somebody left a big pile of dishes and walked off, and then I'm stuck with it, if I'm doing it with a good heart, then that's benefiting me. It doesn't matter, if the other person, and then I hear the other person, instead of getting angry at them, and then they come back and they say, oh, you did the dishes. Thank you so much. I had to leave quickly because I got this call or whatever. And I could have been mad at that person for no reason. So whatever we do, whether, even if they're just being negligent, you might say to them, oh, please be more careful next time or something. But my mental state is more important than correcting another person.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah.
Very well. Thank you.
Yeah. And then it's to my benefit if whatever I'm doing with metta or with compassion, it's like.
Yeah. It's just if they're saying something, I'm focusing my mind on my body sensations, then I'm not listening to them, and that's not very loving and kindness.
You can feel your body. If you have some track running in your head, that's worse than
Yeah.
feeling your feet. I can be aware, oh, there's tension in my shoulders. Can I relax it? But can my heart be also open to what they're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mudita, did you have a question or comment that you'd like to share? We've got a few more minutes left.
No, that was actually a really good question. A lot of good information. Thank you, Vadana. That was a great question. Thank you, Ayas, for answering it. Lots of good stuff.
Yeah, I would also go back to the very first paragraph of the sutta. So after they've seen the one who's been practicing, they're accomplished in virtue, accomplished in their samadhi, their wisdom, their liberation. The one who's looking on, then after hearing the Dhamma, they dwell withdrawn by two kinds of withdrawal of body and withdrawal of mind. And so when you're in a situation where you say, oh, I can't withdraw my body to go to a quiet place to meditate, you can still withdraw the mind. And the withdrawal of the mind is not withdrawal from engaging in right speech and right listening and now right work. It's a withdrawing the mind from the kilesas, from that which is tormenting us with greed or delusion or lust. So it's where we're grasping that question of what am I wanting? So you can withdraw your mind from the unwholesome reactivity. And one method that I've felt most fruitful is to go into the body. So that is that awareness of the body, the states of the body, the contact with the floor. For me, is my tongue loose in my mouth? Is my belly loose? So mindfulness of the body. We're not secluded in our body in the sense of we've gone to the root of the tree or an empty hut to meditate, but we can be within the body softened so that our interactions are wholesome. Our mind is withdrawn from the unwholesome qualities. When they arise, we let them go. And that's a practice. This is not a once and done.
Yeah. So unless the mind is strong enough, you should avoid the situations which can harm the mind.
Or train within them.
But
Okay.
yeah, I think also if it's possible to avoid it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there's also, I love this, there was a, Chad Ming Tang, is that?
Chade Ming Tan.
Yeah, he had this book. It was for people who were working in business, and he was talking about avoiding anger. And a lot of your work in the work world, and you feel really furious. And there were people that were, when he was writing the book, they were actively involved in the project and doing these classes that he was teaching to help, with mindfulness in the work world. And people would do something like they'd feel furious and then they would just get up really quickly and they'd go to the bathroom and shut the door. And they do things to calm themselves down. So seeing, instead of like speaking or acting out of anger, they just took a break. And if you're with somebody that you really love and trust, or a friend or somebody that you could say, I need to excuse myself now. And then I need to talk about this later. And then you don't even say, I'm feeling furious or whatever. You can excuse yourself. And then calm down and say, I'd like to speak about this later because it's difficult for me now to talk about it. And so that's protecting yourself and protecting the other person. So this is just getting to being honest with yourself and if you're able to be honest with other people. But if there are people that are just genuinely harmful psychologically to be around and you can avoid being around them, then I think it's a good idea. Or maybe somebody that's really triggering some unwholesome states in you, you might say, I need to take a break now from
Yeah.
spending time with you, and I'll contact you when I feel that it's a good time. Or yeah, I mean, you can figure it out on your own how to do that as discreetly as possible, or directly.
Yeah, because I'm on the path, they're not. So I have to work on myself than expecting anybody else to.
Yeah, sometimes like if there's behaviors, it's just like I used to work in alcohol and drug treatment, and don't go to the bar, don't hang around with your old friends. This is a, like this was a no-brainer that you just avoid people that are going to get you back into unwholesome behaviors, right?
Just, yeah, it's just like very close family members you can't avoid, and
Yeah.
none of
So
my family is on the path.
It's
They're not. Yes.
yeah.
It's universal because you said they're not on the path. Well, even if they are, they will still trigger you as long as there's something within you to be triggered. The
Yeah,
only
that's
place you can do the work is in you.
Yeah. So
Sucks.
yeah. So yeah, it depends on what the behaviors are and whether, yeah, taking just a little bit more time to yourself. It's true. It's a balance you're gonna have to find. Anyway, I'm gonna turn off the screen share.
And we're at the top of the hour.
So we're at the end of the hour, so we're just gonna end with some respects to the Buddha. We have a little rupa here. If you have a small image in your home, you can bow to it. And then we're gonna bow to this small image here.
Beautiful.
Beautiful image. Small is beautiful, especially in a small apartment. Araham Sama Sambuddha Bhagavan Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivade Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasam Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Ayaz.